It looks like it is noon, so we will start our meeting today. Let's start with standing and doing the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Who is taking roll today? You are? Do we have quorum? Okay. Let's do introductions, and if we start with you, Nathan.
Sure. Nathan Box, City of Holland.
Blake Wright, I'm Dr. Region Planning.
Tyler Kent, I'm Dr. Region Planning.
Vince Bush, Holland Township.
Jim Gerard, Park Township.
Luke Walters, MDOT statewide planning.
Craig Van Beek, Alden County.
Jacob Bonema, Ottawa County Commission.
Richard Van Dorp, City of Zeeland.
Jason Latham, MACC.
Tom Bird, at large.
Frank Garcia, Ottawa County Road Commission.
Beth Higgs, Max Transit.
Stephen Ringelberg, Lake Town Township.
And Chris Brown, Duty County Work at MACC. Mike Sabatino, Port Charlotte Township.
Al Nice, Holland Township.
Tom Hunt, Zeeland Township.
Alec Miller, the MACC.
And we have Doug in the back here. Right.
Yeah.
Great. No members of the public here, so no public comments. And hopefully you've all had your caffeinated soda or coffee.
The approval of the minutes.
Oh, yes, thank you. How about approval of the agenda and the minutes? Do we have a motion for that? Any discussion? All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. And next up is the presentation that you all be tested on afterwards.
Thank you. Happy to be here again to go through the audit with you. Chris and Jason do a lot of work putting this together, so thank you to them. The audit was completed and issued January 14th. It is the one and only audit I issued while I was on vacation, so congratulations. I don't know if you have your books in front of you, you can kind of follow along, but I'll refer to just a few pages throughout the audit along with the slide presentation. But the first and most important thing is we come in and look at internal controls and compliance and audit the numbers to make sure that they're all consistent and correct in accordance with GAAP. And we follow generally accepted auditing standards, all to form an opinion on the financial statements. And on page 1 of the financial statements, the second paragraph says, in our opinion, the statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the MACC. So that's a good unmodified report, a clean opinion, and certainly what you hope for when you have an audit done. And then just going through it a little bit on page 3, there's some financial highlights of the MACC. Just to point out a couple of important ones to you. There was a new 3-year contract with the Outdoor Discovery Center to manage the watershed program, which is good, and also received a new $300,000 Safe Streets grant. So just a couple of the highlights that I'd point out. And that grant started during your last fiscal year, and that will be ongoing for a couple of years here. And then on page 7, that's our first slide. So this is from page 7 of the audit report. And you can just see here that your unrestricted, this is governmental activities, so it's both the watershed and the transportation programs on a full accrual basis. And you can see the amount invested in capital is about level where it has been, and the unrestricted increased quite a bit. Up to it's just under $2 million at this point. It actually increased about $348,000 for the year. And this is information from page 9. It kind of, again, this is both the watershed and transportation. I got them separated out a little bit. But all in all, your grants are up just slightly from the previous year. Your the watershed dues remains the same amount as last year. Transportation dues are up just a little bit for the year, about 3% overall. And then this is just a comparison in the two different areas. This is on the fund financial statements, so I think that's, I quit writing the page numbers down, I think, no, page 12. So first, on page 10, the balance sheets, which I don't have a slide for, but the assigned, there's about 131,000 of assigned fund balance, so that's set aside fund balance, and that's for the community enhancement program, so individual communities put money in here for enhancement within those communities, and that money is set aside. Is about 131,000. And this is just strictly a comparison between the two funds of the expenses and the revenues. You can see in both funds, the watershed and transportation, the revenue exceeded the expenses. That's good. You may recall from years past that watershed was always consistently far less than the expenses. The revenues were far less. So we're seeing a good turnaround there, and with it being contracted out and so forth. And then this slide, I just changed this one last minute this morning, but what I did here is you can kind of see the transportation grants, the tall orange line there is almost exactly the same amount as last year, but you can see over the last 5 years how that's grown back to a very good level. Watershed grants went from, there was an amount about 200,000 in 23, that's now down to 0 because the grants are no longer coming through the MACC. And then I broke out that community enhancement money. You can see that has actually been out there for the last 5 years. It started, I believe, in 2019, and that has grown significantly. This year there was quite a bit contributed to it. It's about 150,000 more than it was the previous year, so there's a good amount there. And then the dues, you can see the yellow bar has remained almost exactly consistent year after year for the last 5 years. Also, just to point out, in addition to page 12, back on page 27, we have budget to actual information in the report. You did overexpend the budget by about 16,000 this past fiscal year in total, so not a bad number. You should really watch that. The state does not agree if you overexpend your budget. They don't like that too much. Normally you have to write to the state and explain why that happened, but it was within their 10% threshold, so you did not have to do that this year. But if it does get over 10%, you'll have to explain to them why you aren't monitoring your budget closely. And the only other item, here's your fund balances. You can see again the transportation increased and the watershed is about at 0 this year. See these numbers right here? That's in years past there was some money that was put into the watershed program to cover deficits. That now has almost all been repaid. So they're even at this point. I think there's only a couple thousand left to take care of there. So everything's in very good shape again this year. Only other thing I would point out to you is now that the MACC is getting in a good positive financial position again, there's rent being paid to MACC Holding Company, which is incorporated into this report, but it's only $1,000 a month being set aside at this point. You might consider looking at the fair value of rent and perhaps increasing that and getting more money set aside for future building issues that will occur as the building starts to age. So other than that, I'll take any questions if anybody has any.
Doug?
Yes.
On the watershed, there's a financial turnaround there.
Yes.
Could you started to hint at it, but could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, the watershed, it was for several years it was really underwater, where there was more staff and more work that had to be done than what the grants could fully support. So that the grants never quite covered everything. In fact, they were quite a big shortfall for a few years back there, up to 70,000. And now that has finally kind of come, so it was about even, and then the grant was contracted out, so you don't have to worry about covering the overhead related to the watershed grants anymore. And now it's they've made enough to be able to pay back that money that was borrowed previously. from the transportation programs.
Right. Yeah, and and I don't think you were here when we made that motion last summer, where we basically paid ourselves back. So we had money in our left pocket and put it in our right pocket, called it good, and that was a board action to do that. So we were not carrying it forward because there's no reason to carry a negative balance when you have the money.
Money to pay for it.
Yeah.
Yep,
Thank you.
yep,
Doug,
Yes, sir.
just to clarify that, because we have a number of new members on board here.
Sure.
In the past, when we had a deficit on the watershed side, we used money from the transportation dues to cover those deficits. So it wasn't, we weren't tapping MDOT's transportation funds in
Correct.
order to do that. It was an internal adjustment of dues to cover the watershed.
correct. But we should,
Sounds like you've got Auditor Wiedewelt talked about an oversight of $16,000. What are you putting in place to make sure that doesn't fall within that?
Yeah, so with working with MDOT, sometimes we get some feedback from them a little bit later, maybe not quite as up to the minute as we would like. So my goal is to make sure that we expend all of our MDOT funding that we can. It's all match money, and if we don't expend it, then we're just leaving it on the table. So to hit it 100% perfect is the goal. If you're a little bit over, the good news is you got all the money that was allotted to you. If you're under, then you're leaving it on the table. So I think just working a little bit closer with Chris to make sure that we have it hit exactly where we need to. And I think next year, if you recall, this past year, we did a budget amendment to make sure that we had our budgets fully expended. We probably just need to make sure that next year we have that accounted for, so we don't have that overages, because we shouldn't.
So it sounds like it's a sweet spot by design that you guys are trying to make sure you're maximizing your return.
That's the goal. That's the goal.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, for the newer members, those who don't know Chris Brown, Chris is the accountant who handles all of our books. He also is the accountant for the Grand Valley Metro Council, so he's well-versed in the logistics of keeping all the money straight.
Yeah, he knows MDOT backwards and forwards, which is nice, you know. Yeah, if you can figure that one out, that'll be good. No, but I think for the new members, that's kind of the highlight. What we really want to do is make sure that the federal aid that's coming to us, to make sure that we're doing our planning, checking all of our planning boxes that we need to check, because we want to make sure we expend all that. We don't want to leave any money on the table. And that's the goal. The other goal, which you saw there, we're in a really nice financial position, and that's by design. We want to make sure that we have a good 3 years of operating costs in the bank, so we can get our job done. Certainly, we wanted to clean up the watershed, which that's been done. So I feel like moving forward, maximize the transportation dollars as much as possible. You saw that we did get the Safe Streets for All, so that was another $300,000 the year before we had additional transportation dollars. So grow transportation, make sure our fund balance is strong, and expend all the federal dollars that are possible that are coming our way. That's the goal. That's the Clip Note version.
Based on what we were saying too, is the goal, MACC has not spent all of the MDOT grants until recently. And the goal is to do that, but, while we might expend it all during the year, it's always subject to commission audit. So the adjustments may come back from them once they do their stuff, and they're auditing the consolidated planning grants. But some of the other smaller grants, they haven't been doing because they're so far behind.
What's the commission you speak of? What's that?
Commission audit is the Department of State. That comes in and basically looks things over. Is like we have fringe rate, indirect rate as part of all the DWP, the planning grant, and the like. So they didn't monitor because they didn't do it. I mean, basically it'd be open for whatever anybody wants to do without any oversight. So that's what the state missions are.
Interesting.
All right. Well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll just move right along. On the transportation side, Alec, you're up.
All right, so as you can see, just me and Jason here today. No Judy, no Eric. And so Judy's visiting her sister in Puerto Rico. Eric is sick. And I just want everybody to look at this camera and say that this meeting is going perfect, because Judy was already hestant when it was going to be the three of us. And then when Eric dropped last minute, I thought she was no way that we can actually run this meeting. So Judy, when you take the minutes, everything's going great, Judy, when you take these minutes online. Okay, so on to the items we got. First one is the West Michigan Trails Master Plan Discussion and Resolution. So last month, John Morrison from West Michigan Trails reached out to us, and he asked if he could come to the MACC and present the master plan, and then asked if the MACC would endorse their new master plan. So he came, he presented. After a thorough discussion, we concluded that the plan aligns well with our values at the MACC, and we decided to support it. If you have any further questions about this document, it was linked in my initial memo. John is more than welcome to discuss it further. He's also willing to meet with your boards. I think, has he met with you yet, or have you guys got that on the schedule yet?
We're trying to get it scheduled.
Okay, so I know he wanted to go with Lake Town. So if you're not familiar with it, the main gist of West Michigan Trails is they're an 18-county organization, and they're just trying to make sure that there's cohesion along all of the trails, because everywhere you go, there's different signage, there's different trails, the maps aren't as good and everything. So they've just been working slowly this year. Actually, it's been a couple years since they've been doing this, of trying to get everybody on the same page. So with this resolution endorsing it, or they're asking for a resolution for endorsing that. It doesn't really affect anything that the MACC is doing. It's kind of just like a formality. There's nothing that we're going to switch what we do or anything like that.
Right, yeah, I think the strength in numbers is a good analogy. And out of 18 counties, the master plan that they've put together is basically every master plan that's within those, and the MACC, we have one. It's in their master plan. So they didn't create anything new. What they're trying to do is get everybody's together and just say, hey, having an integrated, coordinated master plan that covers 18 counties that can try to piece all these together is a great idea. And we 100% agree with that. I think the one little sticking point is there's a discussion in there about, hey, we should sign everything the same. They haven't developed that. It's not a requirement, but that's where individual communities are like, hey, I don't know if I want to do that or not. That's not what they're asking for at this point. They just said that that's something we should think about. But in essence, it's 18 counties worth of master plans in the non-motorized world, all sewn together so you can see it in one place. And they're just asking us to support that document. It was a good discussion, and the TAC did just that, supported it, and asked us to bring it to policy for our endorsement and approval.
So any comments, questions on that?
Is it kind of like US 35? They're just trying to do the same thing like that, but county line, or?
It's in that same realm, yeah, because it's right now for us, we're doing it with our 7 townships and 2 cities, and we're really drilled down into the details. But when you talk about some of these regional trails, like they do cross counties, and what they're looking at is, why don't we just have it all in one document, and then they can speak kind of with one voice, and if all of us within the 18 counties support it, that's the strength in numbers. So if in Kent County, if they're going after grant money, they can say, hey, 45 communities supported this master plan and this particular trail, and it just makes it look a lot better on paper for grant opportunities, which we can then go after ourselves.
All right. No further comments or questions. I'll ask for a motion.
I'll make the motion for it.
Okay.
Support.
Okay.
right. We have a motion, we have a support. Any other comments? All right, all in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, and opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, got that one. So the next one is, here you can see we have 3 rural task force jobs. 3 because there's some engineering, actual construction, but it is 3 jobs. These are taking place within MACC boundaries. Approving these jobs into the new tip is basically just a formality. These jobs didn't go through the MACC, so they didn't use any of the MACC funding. So there's no competition or anything for these jobs. It's the same as last month as when MDOT brought their jobs, and we approved those for that. So we just have to get these approved so we can add them into the tip.
For those who aren't familiar with it, RTF is Rural Transportation Fund,
It's the rural task force.
or Task Force, yeah.
So some MPOs have an RTF built into them. So I know Muskegon does up there, and we do not have one. There's the West Michigan Regional Planning Commission, which is where I started. I initially worked there, and that's in Grand Rapids. Anything to add, Luke?
Yeah, so basically similar to what we do with the funding at the MACC is, you know, everybody, we prioritize the projects, and they do the same thing with the rural transportation funding that's received. And they kind of, I guess 8B would be, or it's
Allegan, Ottawa.
Yeah, Allegan, Ottawa. So
And
a couple different counties that it covers, but it's essentially just, there's portions of the MACC that is covered by the rural task force as well, so there's kind of an overlap between the MACC boundary and what's covered by the RTF. So that's why you're seeing these projects come through here, but they're prioritized through the rural task force.
All right. Ask for a motion.
So moved. Support.
All right, got a motion and support. Any further comments, questions? Okay, all in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
And then opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, well then we're gonna pick up speed here and go straight to MDOT.
All right, well, I'll make it real fast. I have nothing major regarding projects or anything with the program at this point in time. Just appreciate everybody's help with getting the MDOT projects in the tip, and look forward to that approval coming through and being approved in the new fiscal year.
All right, very good. Luke, anything on that?
Yeah, so, lately we've been having a couple delays at the federal level. So currently just with TIP amendment approvals, so we see the TIP amendments come through here, you know, changes to different projects. Those come to the state and then they go up to the feds as well. And we've seen, different delays in those reviews. And we're also anticipating potential delays to the approval of the unified work programs and potentially the TIP approval as well for the 26 to 29. We're not sure on that, but if things play out the way they are with the TIP amendments, we're anticipating there might be at least delays from what we typically see. We don't know if that would really come to affect the major timelines that we see, but we want to keep that in mind as we're kind of looking forward and seeing how we can address those and if we can kind of better prepare for those and maybe get those approvals moving a little bit earlier. So more discussion to come on that in the coming months. We haven't heard any real timeline on what those delays are going to be. So it's really stemming from these additional legal reviews that have to happen now at the federal level for anything that's getting that federal approval. So I know the MACC has an amendment from January that still hasn't been approved, so it's been, closing in on a month to where it's been kind of pending federal approval.
Yep.
There's been others statewide too where we've been kind of just waiting on those. So want to make everybody aware of that. We're not sure what those impacts are going to be long term, or if things are going to be resolved, in the next 12 months. as, processes might change, but,
Right.
just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
Just for clarification, it's not just this MPO, it's nationally, right?
Right.
Just so everybody's aware, it's not anything anybody's doing here.
Next week, Ottawa County sends a group of commissioners to DC to meet with a bunch of the federal agencies about these types of things. If you wouldn't mind reaching out to me and kind of giving me who you'd want to get more information from,
Yeah,
I can work
absolutely.
on that.
Yep.
So I'll jump in with, I'll speak on behalf of Federal Highway real quick. They didn't ask me to, but we did have a meeting with them last Tuesday. And I think a lot of the federal agencies are in a little bit of, I wouldn't say panic, but flux with the new administration coming in. So there were a few Federal Highway employees that were part of the Michigan office, 4 of them, that last Monday lost their jobs. So that was hitting our counterparts pretty hard because it was very close to home at that point. And they did say that most anything that is coming through Federal Highway, they have to send to their legal counsel to review. So I think there's going to be an extra step and certainly some additional time needed to get approvals through Federal Highway right now. And I think they're kind of, like I said, just in a state of flux, and we'll see where things go. I think that's the best to just leave it there.
Yeah.
We don't know what's to come, but certainly we're heavily in that process because that's where our funding comes from for our planning, as well as the almost $2 million a year in construction that's in our TIP is through the Federal Highway Administration. So optimistic that things will go just fine, but like I said, we're in flux.
And one last thing, I did get confirmation from them that projects that don't need amendments and are already approved in the TIP, those can be obligated per typical. There's no risk for those. Things are moving through freeness still and getting obligated, but it's anything that has those other TIP amendments that need to be approved. That's kind of where we're running into issues currently.
Okay.
Beth, unfortunately, it's a MACC job.
Yeah, no, I'm writing it down.
That's been sitting there this whole time, the one from the last meeting.
I know.
So,
Thank you.
And I'm assuming that you haven't heard anything from FTA directly? Yeah.
No.
Okay. Well, then we're going to jump on to the administrative update. We got a really good financial report, which was really nice. That's something that I look forward to every year. That audit starts Thanksgiving week. So that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, it's 8-9 hours a day. And I think every piece of paper that we produce is reviewed in those 3 days. And then about a month later, usually the first week of January is when everything's put together. So we got that, as Doug said, mid-January. Wanted to get it out this month for the report. So MACC Executive Committee, we got that memo was attached here. We had a good discussion, which is, we always have a good discussion. And for those that are new, the exec committee meets once a month. That's 7 board members that make up the exec. You'll be voting on that really soon here. But what we talk about is pretty much anything, kind of making sure they help keep me on task, and then certainly that's my sounding board. If I have questions, I have a group of board members I can go to get feedback on a monthly basis. So it's a really nice thing to have. What we talked about is, you know what, I'm just going to jump right into the next item, because the main discussion that we hit was our bylaws change and then the actual makeup of the executive committee. I received enough bylaw approvals from members for us to move forward with this actual change to our bylaws. And again, this is something that the exec committee, we discussed back in October. That's usually when we have this vote, but with just the normal process that we all go through when electing new officials, it's too difficult to do it in October because we know we're going to change anyway. So we just wanted to make this particular change. It's very, very minor, but I think it makes a lot of sense that, as it states up there, at the second organizational meeting, which will always be in February, the MACC will elect our executive committee members. So I'm going to be looking for a motion to approve that into our new bylaws. So anybody that's willing to do that, let's get there. All right, thank you.
Support.
So Tom and Mike. All right, so we have a motion and we have a second. Any other comments with this? We've talked about it quite a bit, but looking forward to getting this done. All right, seeing no comments, all in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
And then opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you. All right, so now with that, we have a slate of officers. Since I've been here, we've always come to this meeting with a group of folks that wouldn't turn us down if we asked. So here's our slate of officers that we're hoping to elect today. However, if anybody has any questions, comments, if anybody really doesn't feel comfortable with being one of the slate of officers, we'll take any additions, deletions, updates.
Other nominations.
Other nominations? Other nominations? Yeah, there's some arm twisting.
You have to say it 3 times.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Really? Any changes? Any additions? Any nominations? All right, so then I'm looking for a motion for the slate of officers that we just had up on the board there.
I'll make the motion.
All right, so I got Jacob.
Second.
All right, Larry, thank you. All right. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate that. So the exec committee did discuss asking Jim Story to be a member of the board. It's our last at-large seat. He obviously is no longer the Allegan County representative, but the discussion certainly was a very good one. Having somebody like Jim with his years of experience, his passion, his work ethic would be great to have on this board. So I'm just glad we had that one spot available per our bylaws that 4 at-large members are possible. So we're looking to ask Jim to be a member, and he said he's willing to. He'd be honored to. So with that said, I'm looking for that motion to ask Jim Story to be.
So moved.
All right, I got a motion, I got support. Any other comments? All right. Hearing none, all in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you very much. That's great news. Looking forward to getting him back at these meetings. All right, so we're going to go with member comments.
I'd love to start because I got a hard out at
Okay, good.
12:45. Really quick, for those who don't know, we got a Tulip Time Festival coming up quicker than you can possibly imagine. Last week they revealed the new Tulip Time poster on Thursday evening. It's gorgeous. The merchandise is going to be gorgeous. Things are going really well at the city, but I just wanted to share, because this impacts the entire region. I don't know if you guys know it, but the CVB, the Convention and Visitors Bureau, has the ability to track cell phone data. And they don't know exactly who you are, but they know how many people are here and where they come from. And it's incredible data that they're able to gather and collect. And just some of the numbers from last year are, in my mind, astounding. We had 2.7 million visitors in the region last year, with 23.4 individual visits to the area last year. with 2 million overnight stays, generating $58 million in tourist revenue that impacts all of us. So keep that in mind as you are complaining about traffic this summer. That's an awful lot of revenue and an awful lot of people that are coming in. Tulip Time is expecting upwards of 600,000 people during Tulip Time week. And I think almost every one of them walks through my parking lot on 6th Street. So, yeah, that's all I have.
No, that's really good. I went to Linda's, I think I'm gonna try to get her in here to kind of give just a brief synopsis, because that data is unbelievable. We have a meeting set up, well, we had one set up for 3 weeks, we had to cancel. So we'll get that. We want to share that data. We want to figure out how she can help us and how we can help her.
Yeah.
But the amount of data that she has is unbelievable. Who's here, how long they're here, where they came from. She knows what ads that person looked at in Alabama, and then when they booked their flight.
Yeah.
And it's unbelievable.
And the good news is 8th Street will not be shut down this year, right?
Which part of it? Yeah, we're gonna try to make sure that we have roads both going into the city and out of the city.
That's good. That's nice.
Right, guys? MDOT,
Yeah.
right? Yeah?
We heard you loud and clear.
Yes,
The route's a little bit shorter this year.
yes, yeah.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Vince, you're up. Usually the host will go first, but
That's all right. We'll let the mayor go first.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Your honorable mayor. So I actually, since I'm the host, I have a little handout, so I'll just let that flow this way. Over there, a couple down here, a couple down here, try to be prepared. There's those. Put those float around the room. So what I've done is on our website, you can rent the pavilions now. We put it on there. You can actually go to the website and sign up for the pavilions at the parks. It's a new feature that we've had, so it's kind of something that we're trying to promote a little bit. It's very popular, as you can imagine. But the big one is you've seen all those black pipes laying around everywhere. So that's pump station 31. What that is, and you may already know this, but I didn't know if you did or did not. But it's a $30 million project, and what it started was Request Food. Steve DeWitt called me, said, hey, we're gonna move some major water. We need to get some money. So Steve and I talked with our department and our township. We talked to Roger Victory. Roger Victory was able to secure $30 million. So that is moving forward with the end date of January 26th. We have received our first $10 million payment from the state, and MACC Bank on Lakewood will be closed, and it will be the staging center where we put a lot of the pipe and the construction stuff. So we had to negotiate with MACC Bank, and that was a mere $250,000 to close that branch for 6 weeks. So that's kind of my update with those 2 projects. Thank you.
DeWitt's pretty hefty now?
Yeah, you think so?
Request can grow?
Yeah.
very good. All right. Up next. Okay.
Now again, our broadband project has surpassed 50% of our fiber that's ran. We're starting a countywide survey, trying to get input back, just where we're going to direct funds in the future. We've had good success with that in the past. We're hoping to get a little bit more men to jump into that. It was mostly women always on those, so we're kind of hoping there's a better balance inside of that. And then our transportation, we're launching a new translation service. We only have 6.47% that do not speak English in Allegan that we have, but we're trying to do this limited English proficiency. So our service providers will be able to use a translation service to be able to speak better with our our emergency service, whatever that is, to be able to communicate better with serving our people. And that's about it.
Very good. Thanks.
County's running smooth. We're pretty happy. Things are correcting, and we've accepted the resignation of the Coleman Group, who's been our in-house counsel. We will be voting to approve a new interim in-house counsel that has deep municipal experience, so we're excited about that. We approved a wage study countywide that is for all of our employees, which is in excess of 1,100, and all of our elected officials. And that's really just to make sure we're being financial stewards of the people's money, that we're not overpaying or underpaying, right? That we're being fair for what the job entails. We're also finding some jobs that have been out there to be filled have gone a significant amount of time without being filled. So we're going through an audit of, do we really need these jobs? You know, have we found a way to do life without these jobs? So could that money be better spent elsewhere? So, we're making headway. Feels good.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good.
Nothing at this time, no.
All right.
Just in the process of approving projects for the summer, Road Commission. We also had a discussion with Park Township a couple of weeks ago regarding Ottawa Beach Road, and we had probably a 30-minute discussion at the Road Commission and looking at options at this point.
Great. Thank you for doing that.
Great.
Beth?
Well, we will be approving an executive director to take over here shortly, I'm hoping. That'd be nice to have. The project that we're working on for the fixed routes, we're changing all of those. That is due to roll out in June, possibly July. We want to make sure that we have everything correct and we're not missing anything, so that we continue to work on.
Pretty good.
There actually is no news from Lake County. And sorry, Ottawa County, we can't keep bouncing you off the front page, so.
Allegheny County, we let our primary road paving within the last month here. Prices actually came in slightly less than they were last year. We're in the low 70s per ton. So we're pretty happy with that. I'd like to apologize for being late this morning. Jason was gracious enough to lend me his office so I could do the Zoom meeting, and it ran about 25 minutes longer than it was supposed to. So,
Maybe.
I did.
Port Sheldon, we're still cranking through master plan stuff, and we also received a draft version of our economic resiliency response plan, which is a deep dive into the financials, implications of the plant closure, and happy to report we're in really, really good shape. Really not, it's inconsequential to operations, and so we're happy to see that. It looks like really good data from that report, so yeah, moving forward. It's great. Yeah.
All right.
Well, then I think we're done. Looking for a motion to adjourn. Support. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much.
You've been following the
All right. That's pretty quick. Yeah.